The research outpost on Epsilon 7 had been running smoothly for 3 standard months when Diana first encountered the Valkyrie cubs. The feline-like aliens, covered in iridescent fur that shifted between deep purple and silver, had been observing the human settlement from the tree line with increasing boldness. Diana was adjusting atmospheric sensors near the compound's eastern perimeter when she heard the whimpering. Following the sound, she discovered a small Valkyrie cub caught in thorny undergrowth, a long scratch bleeding across its foreleg. The creature's large amber eyes widened in fear as she approached. "Hey there, little one," Diana whispered, keeping her movements slow and deliberate. "Let's get you sorted out." The cub hissed weakly but didn't resist as she carefully extracted it from the thorns. Back at the medical bay, Diana cleaned the wound with practiced efficiency, applied antiseptic, and wrapped the injury in a small bandage. The cub watched the entire process with fascination, its small nose twitching as it sniffed the sterile medical supplies. When Diana released it near the tree line, the cub bounded away, occasionally stopping to examine its bandaged leg with what could only be described as pride. She thought nothing more of it until the next morning. Mason was the first to notice them. Diana, you might want to see this." Outside the observation window, at least 15 Valkyrie cubs sat in a rough semicircle, staring at the compound. As Diana approached the airlock, they perked up, several holding up paws or tails with exaggerated care. "You've got to be kidding me," Diana muttered, but she couldn't suppress her smile. The first cub in line had what appeared to be a completely superficial scrape on its paw pad. Diana examined it, noting the injury was already healing naturally. Still, she cleaned it gently and applied a small bandage. The cub chirruped with satisfaction and pranced away, showing its bandaged paw to its companions. "They're faking it," Mason observed, leaning against the doorframe with crossed arms. "That's actually pretty clever. Or they learned that minor injuries get attention and care," Diana countered, beckoning the next cub forward. "Either way, I'm not turning away patients." By midday, Diana had treated a variety of injuries, most suspiciously minor or already healed. One enterprising cub had somehow tangled itself in vine deliberately, requiring Diana to spend 20 minutes carefully unwrapping the plant matter while the cub purred contentedly. Mason brought her lunch while she was bandaging cub number 23. "The adult Valkyrie have been watching from the forest," he said quietly. "They don't seem hostile, just ... curious, maybe confused." Diana glanced toward the tree line, catching glimpses of larger shapes between the trees. "Wouldn't you be? Some alien shows up and starts providing free medical care to your kids. Most species would be suspicious. Most species haven't met humans yet." The pattern continued for days. Each morning, cubs would arrive with increasingly creative injuries. One had wrapped itself in mud, claiming it was stuck. Another held up a paw with a tiny pebble between its toe pads, looking appropriately distressed. Diana treated them all with the same gentle efficiency, and Mason began helping, learning to hold the smaller cubs steady while Diana worked. On the 5th day, everything changed. An adult Valkyrie emerged from the forest, moving with the cautious grace of a concerned parent. Behind it, supported by 2 other adults, came a juvenile with a genuinely serious injury, a deep gash across its shoulder that still bled despite crude attempts at bandaging with leaves. The cubs scattered, but the adults approached slowly. Stopping several meters from Diana, the injured juvenile was carefully lowered to the ground. Diana's training kicked in immediately. "Mason, get the surgical kit. This one's real." The adults watched, tense and ready to intervene, as Diana assessed the wound. It was deep, probably from a predator encounter, and showed early signs of infection. She worked quickly, cleaning the injury, applying antibiotics, and suturing it closed with steady hands. The juvenile whimpered once, but remained still, perhaps sensing she meant no harm. When she finished wrapping the shoulder in proper medical bandaging, the adult Valkyrie that had led the group forward made a deep, rumbling sound in its chest. It was a sound of gratitude that needed no translation. The juvenile was helped to its feet and guided back toward the forest. But before they disappeared into the trees, the adult turned back, meeting Diana's eyes with an intelligence that she had always suspected but never confirmed. The next morning brought a surprise. The cubs arrived as usual, but this time accompanied by adult Valkyrie carrying gifts, strange fruits, woven items, even a beautiful piece of carved wood depicting the forest elderbell, its fur graying at the muzzle, approached Diana directly. Through a series of gestures and vocalizations that Mason frantically recorded, it communicated something profound. Humans were no longer outsiders. They were healers, They were trusted. From that day forward, the Valkyrie and humans existed in careful harmony. The cubs still occasionally showed up with fake injuries, and Diana still treated them all, understanding now that it wasn't about the bandages, it was about connection, trust, and the universal language of compassion. Mason downloaded the data from the day's observations, watching Diana apply another bandage to another critically injured cub that was clearly fine. "You know," he said, "this is going to make one hell of a report for command." Diana grinned, scratching behind a cub's ear like appendage as it purred. "Let them try to explain it in their xenosociology journals. Sometimes first contact isn't about grand diplomatic gestures or technology exchanges. It's about bandaging one cub's scratch. It's about showing you care," Diana corrected. "The rest just follows naturally." As the twin suns of Epsilon 7 set behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the clearing, Diana looked at the cubs playing near the compound and the adult Valkyrie watching peacefully from the forest edge. Humanity had traveled across the stars equipped with advanced technology, weapons, and carefully crafted first contact protocols. But in the end, it was something much simpler that had bridged the gap between species: a bandage, gently applied to a small scratch, and the universal understanding that someone cared enough to help. Diana thought was the most human thing of all.